One person has the power to crash cryptocurrency markets with a tweet, influence global politics through social media, and potentially determine humanity's path to the stars. Today, we're exploring how Elon Musk became arguably the most influential individual in human history. Welcome to Temporally Scripted. I'm Jack Austin alongside Adam Garcia, and we're continuing our deep dive into reality, simulation, and power. This time focusing on a man who seems to bend all three at will. From PayPal to Tesla, SpaceX to Twitter, we're examining how a computer programmer from South Africa transformed into a figure who shapes global markets, technology, and public discourse. We'll look at the real influence behind the memes, the power behind the posts, and what it means when one person can affect humanity's trajectory through a smartphone. We'll track his rise to power, analyze his current influence across multiple industries, examine his relationships with governments and corporations, and consider what his accumulated power means for our collective future. Adam, let's dig into it, mate. I'm looking forward to this one today.
Yeah, me too. It seems like he's kind of operating the Matrix in some ways, because how do you find the time to do all of that and be the number one player in the world of Diablo 4? It's insane.
So sorry, what's that? That is a fact that I did not know. He's the number one player in the world of Diablo 4.
Yeah, I've never played it because I don't really play computer games, but apparently it's insanely difficult to play and be good at, and he's number one in the world.
How does he find time? I mean, I have heard that he spent many a night on the floor at SpaceX when he was getting things off the ground, or maybe that was Tesla, but one of his various operations. So perhaps that's why we're led to believe he was working really hard, but really he was doing all-nighters like a student, eating pot noodles and smoking weed in their grotty flat.
Yeah, and outsourcing a few things here and there.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Unless he's already managed to clone himself with some kind of AI Tesla mixed technology that is amazing at playing that game.
Which is probably doable because he has, well, XAI or Grok or whatever you want to call it. Imagine you own your own AI company like that. You could do all kinds of things, I would think.
Well, it's like when they talk about technological advancements, because most of them come from the military or army arms related companies, because they're investigating all of these things. And they say that generally technology is 10 years further ahead in governments and in what's usable than what we see as members of the public. So it then would make sense that Elon Musk has access to technology that we don't even know exists yet.
More than likely, yeah. There must be stuff that's being dreamed up at like SpaceX or Neuralink or XAI that's so far ahead of what we consider those technologies to be, which is crazy, really. But then at the same time, we think, okay, the government's like way in advance of everyone else. But then the government started paying SpaceX to do stuff instead of NASA, which was the government's agency.
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's an insane level of power developed in quite a short space of time. And I think what's interesting and what a lot of people don't necessarily know about Elon Musk is what his main skill is. And what makes him special is his ability to look at a process, find the inefficiencies in that process, and solve them, right?
Yeah. So I'd heard that one reason why his companies are so successful is because in each company, each week they take the biggest problem that company has and they solve it. The next week, they do the same again and again. So by the end of the year, you've solved the 52 biggest problems that company has.
So it's almost like a compound effect or like habit stacking, but in a business sense.
Yeah,
where they're like, right,
completely.
guys, instead of us all dicking around, checking emails, replying to these messages and doing this, that, and the next, we are going to sit in a room and the best minds in this company are going to figure out how we solve the biggest problems this week. And we've set a deadline for it. We're not saying we'll fix this when we can. It's becoming the absolute focus and priority of that week. And everything else can wait until it gets its turn. And to just give some context about the difference between that and what other big corporations are like, as somebody who worked for a massive multinational company, they thought that they were breaking molds when they said you were allowed to leave a meeting without asking permission if you felt it wasn't useful for you to be there, which I had a lot of fun with, by the way.
But this is a third meeting today. What?
Beyond even taking the minutes and just stand up and walk out. This is not for me.
I'm
but they
going
were
outside for a cigarette and to drink some coffee.
Yeah, they're like, oh, we've really progressed here. We're going to let you leave meetings if you feel they're a waste of time. But actually putting the power of thousands of people on one problem and getting it solved, taking all those roadblocks away, is insane.
Completely. And it's like the very best people as well that he hires. Because I guess that's why when he went to Twitter, when he bought Twitter and he went in, and then it's like everyone had to explain to him what they did. And if it wasn't a satisfactory answer, or if it basically amounted to nothing, it's sorry, you're gone. And other people, oh, well, I want to work from home. I don't want to come back to the office. It's like, okay, then
don't come
go
back.
for it.
Yeah.
And so was it like 70 or 80% that he cut the staff by? I can't remember.
It was
It
crazy.
was huge.
Yeah. And would you say he's one of the best examples we have of a self-made man?
In a way, but it's all relative in some ways as well. So I'm sure there's many people in South Africa that wouldn't have had quite the same opportunities as Elon Musk. He is self-made, but wasn't it his parents had like an emerald mine or something crazy like that? So it's not like he's come from some like working class or something like that. Doesn't he have like, is it 8 or 9 kids?
Yeah, Elon himself is known as having at least 9 children, and I believe by 4 different women.
Right. Where's he find all this time again? You know, it's like he's a busy lad.
It's impressive. Yeah, and I heard that he lives in quite a big mansion of his own, and very close by to that mansion is another huge property where his wives, or his ex, or his not wives, his baby mothers, I suppose, for want of a better phrase, all live together with all of the children in one house as well.
Right. I guess apart from, is it Grimes? Because I guess they separated and she's probably not in that house. I don't know. I'd never heard of any of this before.
Yeah. So who knows?
Because also sometimes didn't he say with Tesla, he'd have like a really small house just made on site, and he'd just live in this like really basic accommodation just so he could be at the factory the whole time.
Yeah, can you imagine getting invited on a first date with Elon Musk? He's like, yeah, come down, come to the factory.
Like richest man in the world, this is good.
Yeah, you're expecting like this crazy night out. We'll probably go in a helicopter, maybe we'll go here, and he just invites you down to his office. He's got, a couple of pillows laid down on the floor.
Just some shack in the car park.
Yeah, open laptop. Keeps running off to answer business calls. And then you let him impregnate you, clearly, because you've got 9 children and running around by 4 different women. I mean, he must be doing something right.
Yeah, he's doing well. He's definitely doing well.
Yeah. So if we go back to his initial success before we start looking into where he is today, because obviously the position he's got himself into now, being basically in the government, running his own department, which I think is another fascinating topic for discussion. But he started out by founding a company called Zip2, and he sold that to Compaq for $307 million, which probably feels like the kind of money he could find down the back of his sofa these days. And then he moved into what is known as the PayPal era. And I don't know if you've heard this story or not before, but if you look at the group of people that were all living together at university, at college, when he came up with PayPal with some other guys in there, you're talking about the biggest companies on the planet today.
Right.
They're all part of this PayPal crew.
Oh, was it like Peter Thiel? Maybe.
Yeah, there's these guys. I'm just putting it in now because I want to just make sure that we get this point across, because we talked about being self-made, but also it's about who do you get to meet and be involved in all of these situations. So of course there was like Max Levchin, Reid Hoffman, like these guys are all PayPal specific, but who he was at college with is insane. There's a picture somewhere online. We'll see if we can put it up somewhere at some point, but like it's like a who's who of every major software business, modern company. Like the YouTube guy is in there as well.
It's like that thing people say that you are some of your 5 closest friends. Something like that, or they're like the biggest influence. And I guess in that kind of situation, that's some good influence to have.
Oh shit, that's depressing.
I know what you mean.
Cheers, mate.
Don't worry about it.
Funny. Yeah, so here, I've just got it now. They had a house off campus. So there's Adio Ressi, who founded the Founder Institute and funded it, which is like a startup accelerator. There's Justine Wilson, who's like married him and became a massive author. And it's like a who's who of PayPal. Yeah, that's what it's called. The PayPal Mafia. Which is
interesting name for it.
Yeah, exactly. So you can imagine the list of people in that. Who is the PayPal Mafia? Amazing. So one of the early investors in Facebook, Peter Thiel, but one of the early investors in Facebook, Max Levchin, as I mentioned, Reid Hoffman, who's the co-founder of LinkedIn, which has got 1 billion users. Ridiculous. We got a guy called David Sachs, who founded Yammer, which was sold to Microsoft for $1.2 billion. There's a guy in here called, Roloff Botha. Must be another South African. Botha, I know a couple of people with that name, and they're from South Africa. He's a key investor in YouTube, Instagram, and Square. Right?
Wow.
And it just goes on and on. Steve Chen, co-founder of YouTube. Chad Hurley, the other co-founder of YouTube. Wow.
So between them, it's just like, is it the majority? I don't know, but it's when you think of like social media, online kind of entertainment like YouTube or whatever, it's like from that group of people, it's just so much. It's so much of a big part of all of that.
It's wild, mate. In here, you've also got Yelp, which is another huge company. So to Russell Simmons and these guys, which is just totally insane. So yeah, PayPal Mafia.
It's insane.
So if we move on a little bit in kind of Elon Musk's career, there's obviously the Boring Company, there's SpaceX, there's all this government influence. How has he managed to get himself into that position? Do you think it's because of his talent to cut out cost and be more efficient? Do you think it's the level of networking he's been able to do? What do you think has got him to this place that he's in today?
I think it's a mix of all of those. And also, I think he's probably just brilliant with strategy and also probably ridiculously high IQ, really good at playing games. He's probably playing like 5D chess while everybody else is playing tiddlywinks. I guess a huge amount must come down to how he manages each company, how he manages a team, the people that he hires. I remember hearing one story where he had an assistant, and one day she goes, "Oh, Elon, I'd quite like to have a raise." And he goes, "Oh, okay. Do you think your job is hard? Is it difficult?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, very." It's like, "Okay, well, go on holiday for a couple of weeks. I'll do your job while you're away. If it's hard, I'll give you a raise. If not, you're gone." Comes back, surprisingly, the job wasn't that hard.
And you're on the job market once again.
Yeah, and it's that kind of like ruthlessness, but it, for the sake of efficiency and just creating
Yep.
the best team, the best companies that he can. And also, it's with all of these things, whether it's SpaceX or X or anything else, he understands every single part of it. So he's like chatting with engineers trying to solve problems and all that kind of thing. It seems like he knows every layer of each company and how to do everything in there. And also, it's like that he's aiming for like really lofty goals.
Yeah, he's definitely like shoot for Mars, and if you hit the moon, then that's good enough, or it's like you shoot really far out, but then if you kind of fall a bit short, it's still better than like not shooting far enough out in the first place.
Yeah, completely. But when you think of like how many businesses generally fail, for him to have so many different businesses that are doing so well, well, it could be luck, but there's always that. But I think there's a bit more to it somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the key examples of that is the Boring Company. So for those of you listening that don't know what the Boring Company is, it's about creating tunnels and tunneling. And when Elon Musk announced that he was creating it, it seemed like it was a bit of a meme and a bit of a joke of what he was doing. And the idea was that you could start moving traffic underneath cities and running through tunnels. And when he first created this company, it was something crazy like to build a tunnel cost $1 billion a mile or something. It was like 100 million or to $1 billion a mile for boring tunnels under the ground. And he's now got that down to $10 million a mile. He's already built one underneath, I think it's being built or it's been built underneath Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And now, because he's made tunneling so much more efficient and cheaper, it's a viable business opportunity, and it could start replacing the method of transport that we see today.
Yeah. Did you hear that? Did you hear that thing where he announced that it would be really good to, and he said he could do it, have a tunnel from New York to London? I can't remember what the speed was, but it was like having some kind of trains that would go at like 2,000 miles an hour or something, because it would be in like a vacuum tube.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. And
I don't think it'd ever happen because it would cost so much and take so long to do. But it's just interesting, like, that he would think like that.
well, and that's the thing, because it can be conceived in the mind, there's every possibility that it can be done. I would add to that it certainly won't be done while we have Keir Starmer in government in the UK, because
yeah, I don't think he's a fan.
Yeah, clearly Elon Musk and Keir Starmer have some things that they need to work through to rebuild their relationship or even start to build it.
For sure. I think we should get onto that a little bit later.
Yes.
Just wanted to mention something. You were saying about how he managed to cut the cost from like, was it like $1 billion to like, as
10 million or
10
something.
million.
It's something stupid. Yeah.
He did that with a lot of things, and also I guess that's why some of his companies have been chosen over like the government agencies from the past. So I remember something from ages ago. It was NASA had this thing where they do the pricing for all their parts, and everything came out as really expensive. So there was things like a manual inertial impact device, a hammer, but that was like $700 and things like that. But it was like that with everything. And they just
Right.
like ramp up the cost of everything somehow through this
Yeah.
agency. And so everything that he's did is so much more efficient, and it just seems there's no bureaucracy or people skimming off the top.
I hope you're not
is-
suggesting there, Adam, that some of these companies that are working with governments on government money that's paid by the debt that's serviced by taxpayers would, intentionally jack up prices for items that should be much cheaper than they are.
I don't think that would ever happen. I think it's never happened in the past and would never happen in the future.
No, I mean, that would be totally outrageous to suggest something like that about any government in the world, I would say.
Completely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Dear.
So what do you think of the involvement that he had with the Trump campaign recently?
It's fascinating in a few ways. It's fascinating because I guess the groundwork for that was put in with a very subtle thing when Elon Musk took over X, because Elon Musk took over X to protect freedom of speech, is what his point was, right? I'm going to buy this because I want to protect freedom of speech. And his opinion, some of the other platforms were complicit in trying to control the narrative of what's being said. Yeah, right. So he went in and did that. And one of the first things that he did was reinstate Donald Trump's capability to post and have an account. Now, Donald Trump didn't take him up on this at all at the time. He had his own platform in Truth Social, and he had, I guess, contractually probably was like, I'm better off doing my own thing on my own platform. And I'm not even sure at that stage Donald Trump had agreed or said that he was going to run for the presidential election. So I'm not sure if it was before or after, but we'd have to check that out later. But that was the beginning of that conversation. And I always say that Elon Musk is the greatest marketer that's ever lived. And sometimes I question, is he that smart and intelligent? Well, he clearly is, but is it more in the marketing and the way he markets himself than it is in the capability to see these things and do these things? Does he just have a really good social capability to be able to identify who can make things more efficient? And is he someone that can be a breeding ground for people to feel comfortable to come out with these outlandish and wild ways of doing things differently? And then his marketing sees that he takes the credit for that, as is always the case. But I'm going down a different track. We'll come back to this, right?
I do see what you mean.
And then I wonder if he was then very instrumental in Trump's campaign, not just in the way that we saw. So, we'll give this guy $1 million if if you're someone who's campaigning for Trump, you could win $1 million. And obviously tweeting about it and doing all of this stuff. Maybe he was also heavily involved in, hey, this is how you market yourself, Trump. Get yourself to be a person, right? Because people would rather deal with a politician that they see as human that maybe doesn't believe exactly what they're saying than they would someone who seems like a robot but is talking all the right stuff in policy. And I feel like that's what's happened when you saw him going and doing YouTube videos with Bryson DeChambeau playing golf, right? Bryson DeChambeau is a PGA Tour player, and Trump goes on an 1.5 hour long video, a whole day out playing golf with Bryson DeChambeau. Instant relatability, right? He goes on all of these other like Twitch and stuff with like Gen Alpha and like end of Gen Z, late Gen Alpha, early Gen Alpha, for example.
And he did interviews with like Theo Von, and he did a Rogan as well, which I think was like 2.5 or 3 hours long, something like that. And he's just there, just like a natural person. He seems like a real person, seems like a really funny guy, because he is.
I mean,
it's really good branding.
Totally. So I think with the whole Elon thing. He's a similar character. They got on. And I believe Trump is thinking, well, if I want to tear some stuff up, someone like Elon Musk coming in, heading up a department to do that is going to be awesome. Now, yeah, how that ended up happening is quite insane, because in some ways it's like, does it mean that the US and the way that the political system is in the US is actually more open than some other countries? Because in the UK, you would never have some celebrity, like billionaire, come in and become prime minister, right?
Yeah.
It's all sewn up with people in the same clubs mostly.
It seems to be, yeah. It's rare that you would get someone just from the outside, pretty much, that happened to have loads of money and go, okay, I want to be prime minister now.
Exactly.
Andrew Tate wants to, apparently, but I don't think that'll work out.
I can see it happening with Farage, but again, that's another conversation for another day.
Yeah.
We've got something coming up in a couple politics and viewing politics from afar. So I think some of that will be from afar, not from a Farage. But anyway.
Yeah, because also as well, I was just going to mention that from when I was doing a little bit of research for this, what I found was Musk had donated $270 million to the Trump campaign, which is quite a bit of money. And then I couldn't help thinking, well, I wonder if there's like anything that you get in return, because it's, maybe Trump, it was a better option for the country. I think he probably was, to be honest, because I'm not sure Kamala Harris in charge or another 4 years of Democrats would, I don't know where that would end up, probably World War III somewhere.
Maybe. Yeah, in theory. Yeah, and I mean, it is a lot of money, but it's not unusual. And it's something my dad always used to say when I was growing up, is that, and for the record, my dad was a military man, and you know, part of what you would say is society. He was definitely a patriot in that sense. But what he would always say is that you get the politicians for one day every 5 years. So
yeah.
And then if we want to go on top of that with this kind of giving money to campaigns for, you know, for government preferential treatment, you only have to go back to the 2020 election, where Mark Zuckerberg donated $400 million to Biden's campaign. So it's not unusual.
Wow. Yeah, I guess it's not. Also, I was going to say, well, I guess some of the payoff kind of came quite quickly, because after Trump was elected, everything in the stock market just pumped hugely. Also, Tesla did in a massive way, and some other of Musk's companies, because obviously he's now going to have basically like a direct line to the president. So when I looked at this, it was a couple of weeks ago, but he became like the richest man on earth at 447 billion. But between November 5th, when there was the election, and about the middle of December, his net worth went up by $170 billion.
Which is not small change.
No, and that's in about 4 weeks.
I think that's probably bigger than the GDP of the country we both reside in currently.
Yeah, well, from what I read, the GDP of Vietnam is 408 billion.
Right. So it's a bit
Elon
more.
Musk's net worth is more than that.
Yeah.
But he made about half of it in 3 weeks.
So he is sort of a bit of a Vietnam, Thailand level one-man show.
Completely.
Yeah, and I think it's funny you said that, because as I was joking around, and I was saying to my wife the other day, I might just send Elon Musk an email. It just says, any chance you could send me $1 million? Here's my account number. Here's my sort code. And just see what happens. You never know. He might just open it and go, do you know what? That'll be fun. Let's just send this dude $1 million.
Let's see what happens. Might try it myself. Just send loads of emails to really rich people.
Yeah,
Hey, fancy giving me some money? It's nice.
that is an outreach strategy right there. Yeah, anybody watching this now, if everybody from this episode starts sending emails to rich people asking them for $1 million, if one of us gets it, we can just split it all between us, right? It's like
That's pretty good. Yeah, it's not as if we've got like 1 million subscribers or anything. So
no, exactly. Yes, it's not going to be $1 each. There's like me, you, my mum, and a couple of other people.
Do you think this is encouraging people to like, share, and subscribe?
No, we're going to do that at the end before we finish, right? We always do a little dip out to that. Another example of his power is from his tweets, because we've seen it when he posts a picture of his new dog a few years back with Shiba Inu and with Doge.
Yeah, sure.
And at the time, Doge was a joke. I remember I was into cryptocurrency back then. I must suck at it because I'm not on a yacht right now. So, all fear, uncertainty, and doubt is something that lives in the back of my mind. But I accidentally swapped like $2,000 worth of Bitcoin into Doge before this happened, right? So before this must have been 2 runs ago by now, at least maybe 2 runs ago, 2017 probably. Anyway, and I was like, oh my God, panic, swap it back out. And I remember losing like $100 swapping it back and forth between Bitcoin and Doge. And then the next thing, it's like, I've just bought this dog, boom. And then Shiba Inu came out. And
yeah, of course.
These meme coins were supposed to die back then in 2017. There's no future to them. And if you look now, Doge is still, I don't know, is it the 3rd or 4th biggest market cap?
I can't remember. I know it's quite high. But yeah, it's just so incredible. Just with one tweet, you can just do that. I remember, I think it was last cycle as well, Tesla had bought a load of Bitcoin, and then all of a sudden he announces that he's selling like half of it or going to sell it all or something. And then instantly the Bitcoin price just went, and that's just through one thing. And it is that market manipulation in a way, I'm not sure, but I felt bad for anyone who's in like a leveraged long position who just got just wiped out.
Yeah, it's surprising that, he must have some fairly high level security around him just in case, especially given that he's in America. I mean, I don't want to jump onto different topics, but there's obviously the tragic situation where the CEO of that health insurance company got wiped out. And, if you've liquidated someone's position for millions of dollars on Bitcoin, yeah, you're going to be in some sort of trouble. I suppose the German government are probably sat praying that Elon Musk says something terrible about cryptocurrency again, so that their FOMO as a nation can disappear and they can buy their positions back after selling all of their crypto at around 50, 60K this year.
Right.
I don't know if you heard that story.
I've never heard that story before, but that's kind of unlucky.
Yeah, the German government decided to sell all of their Bitcoin stocks sometime early 2024.
Right. That's not particularly good timing. That's
not excellent timing at all.
That's about as bad as you could get.
Yeah, presumably they bought it all back like last month and now it's on its way back down again.
They keep shooting themselves in the foot with a lot of things, so it was like that thing where they were shutting down, I think it was like nuclear and like traditional power stations and things, and just getting natural gas from Russia. Of course, a couple of years ago, a lot of that came to a grinding halt, and now have a lot of problems from it.
Good policy there, for sure. Which brings us... You go, sir.
I was just going to say, shall we have a look at maybe some of Elon's companies and maybe see what he could lose or gain by his involvement with the Trump government?
I like it. Yeah, I like that. Does he have a wall company?
I don't think he has a wall company.
No, a wall company.
A wall company. No, but he can guarantee he's making one.
The most efficient walls. Anyway, yeah.
Because we have all these different companies. I mean, I don't know. Say, for example, okay, so we have SpaceX. Not long ago, the California Coastal Commission was rejecting plans for him to launch more rockets into space. I think Republicans come over, that's then allowed. I think on top of that, he's going to get more contracts to replace the NASA contracts of old. And I've just got a feeling it's going to, I don't know why, but especially as he makes he has something that's cheaper and more efficient anyway. But I can just see that usually in government, there's a lot of that kind of favors for favors. I could just imagine there's a potential for much more in the way of contracts to go to SpaceX.
Yeah,
instead of the traditional route.
I can see that, and I guess there'll be some impact probably there on Boeing as well and what they're doing, and because some of that crosses over, I believe. I'm not an expert, but I believe that Boeing do quite a bit of engineering and stuff.
I think you might be right.
I mean, they're of course busy, like, you know, making 737 planes fall out the sky and stuff at the moment.
And
so
doors falling off and things like that.
Yeah, cutting corners. Yeah. Anyway, sorry to anyone that has had problems with Boeing planes and stuff. We're not making fun of anyone who lost their lives, but
well, you dug yourself out of that one.
Like a pro.
That was slick.
Like a pro. Of course, yeah. I personally I won't fly Boeing anymore, but yeah, that's just me. So we said something bad about Germany. Airbus is German, so now we're saying something good. We're fair. We're balanced here at Temporarily
right.
Scripted.
Yeah.
We've got to think about our future sponsorship contracts and all of that kind of stuff. Right?
I don't think we're getting sponsored by Boeing somehow.
But SpaceX, maybe. We're open to sponsorship, Elon, if you're watching this. Yeah.
So yeah, you had things like SpaceX that could be beneficial.
That's
could go well.
Sure.
With Tesla, I'm not sure, because when Trump comes in, he wants to bring in tariffs.
Yeah.
Which could work both ways. So recently, Tesla had to halt their plans because they were going to build, like, I think it was called the Gigafactory, something like that, in Mexico. But then it wouldn't be viable if there's going to be tariffs on the cars that they would bring into America from Mexico. However,
it's a double.
Yeah. And it's the same with China as well, because it's like, and also an example would be China makes some electric vehicles that are pretty good, but more than that, they're really cheap. And so it's like, if I was in the market for an electric car, and say there's like a Tesla for 50,000, or there's a Chinese one for 20,000, I might go, okay, well, maybe I'll go for the Chinese one. Seems good enough. But with tariffs, say if it's 100%, that could bring it up to 40,000. And so you go, you know what, I might as well just pay a bit extra and get a Tesla.
Yeah. I see that. Obviously, the Chinese car is going to be listening to you and feeding everything back to its own government.
Pretty much, yeah.
I'm joking. That's just the standard paranoia of anything Chinese at the moment. Is anyone using the Chinese ChatGPT? No, it's going to know who I am. They're going to be training a clone of me. In China, they're doing it now. They already know how to clone. I think it's an interesting point. I feel like, sorry if I'm interrupting you, but
no, I was just going to say, because obviously it depends what happens with those tariffs. And so things coming from overseas, if it's Tesla, will Trump go, well, Tesla's an American company, so there's no tariffs on that. We'll just let it go. And also because they have kind of a relationship.
Yeah, I feel like Elon Musk must know that electric vehicles are totally useless and a terrible waste of time. I feel like it's a huge PR stunt, to be honest, because if we look at like the way that you have to produce lithium batteries for a starting point, it's horrendous for not only the environment but the people that are doing the work to mine what we need for this. And then who wants to drive for like 5 hours and then have to sit for 2 hours to charge something up? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm really old fashioned, but like, I believe there is a way to make them work. And in my head, the model would be you go to like a petrol station, but it's like a charge station, and all of the electric car batteries are the same. So they go click, pull out yours,
Just
put
swap
in
it
another
over
one, and then off you go. Right? That
that
makes
would
sense.
actually be a really sensible way to do it.
I mean, clearly the power problem nobody gives a shit about, because I probably said this before, but if you make an image on DALL-E 3 on ChatGPT, it uses the same amount of power as it takes to charge an iPhone from 0 to 100%. Now, I'm sat in ChatGPT all damn day because of my job and what I do, right? And my other businesses. So I'm charging like 700 iPhones a day.
Yeah.
So if I go and like buy an electric car, I'm pissing into the wind. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
It is kind of crazy. I mean, also, if you buy an electric vehicle, the resale value is like next to nothing.
And that's because nobody wants one.
It's not, it's that, but also it's, okay, so it's like they always say, you buy a car, it's worth half as much once you drive it off the lot. It's like, okay. But then with the electric vehicle, you've owned it for a while, the battery's almost gone. So it's like then the next person has to buy a new battery for it, and they're really expensive. And so it's just, the whole thing, it's just got it is just a waste of money for a lot of people. Once you've spent however much it is, you're not going to recoup much of it. You're going to get maybe 20% back or something.
Yeah, and let's face it, the Cybertruck is shite. It looks like a cardboard box on wheels. There's nothing cool about that Cybertruck in any way, shape, or form. In my opinion, I just think it's like, what is it?
It's really weird.
It's rubbish. It looks like a 6-year-old drew it. It's like, did you ever seen that Simpsons episode where he meets his long lost brother, Herbie Simpson? And he's like this really famous multi-millionaire car manufacturer. So he asked Homer to like design a car for the everyman, and Homer designs this disgusting thing. And it ruins him, basically. Like, I feel like that's what's gone on here with Elon Musk. He's got some like special brother somewhere, and he asked him to design something. And he's like,
can you draw a car?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I'll put it on the fridge. And he's like, no, I want you to design it. Make it for me. You know, you're my brother. And he's gone ahead and done it. But because he is the greatest marketer that's ever lived, people are buying it.
Yeah. I mean, people do say that it's like, it's fun to drive and it's quite cool in terms of technology.
Is that people that have bought one?
Maybe.
Yeah, so they would say that.
That's some amount of buyer's remorse. Or...
It's like people who have a Samsung, for example. Right.
One interesting thing is, you know, because it's the Cybertruck's bulletproof.
Right.
There was that attack on Trump Hotel in Vegas.
Was it a guy in a Cybertruck shooting out of the window?
No, but it wasn't quite like that. But what he did is he packed the back of it with like explosives and fireworks and various things, and then detonated it. But because it's bulletproof, it didn't really do that much damage to the actual building. It just went upwards because everything around the truck is, well, it's like bulletproof steel.
Right.
So it's like this guy went to like cause loads of damage, and maybe it would have done. Maybe more people would have been killed, but it was saved.
So what you're saying is
so well built.
Yeah. So what you're saying is we should give away free Cybertrucks to terrorists.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to write to my MP.
Yeah, I've got 2 points there as well. So for me, that sounds very much like an advertising campaign. Like, what will happen if we do this? Everyone's going to want a Cybertruck. And 2, what happens if someone shoots through the roof? Like, all my most critical parts of me are like my head and stuff, right? So if somebody can't shoot through the sides, but what if they happen to be at a slight vantage point, like occasionally shooters
or something like that?
yeah. I mean, occasionally shooters come from a vantage point,
Or brought a trampoline with them,
and they're just like bouncing up and down or whatever. Yeah, then it does. It begs a couple of questions there. It also, I think, brings into question, which leads us to what our next episode is about, but we're not quite there. Yeah, is it brings into question in the IQ of the person that decided that was the vehicle to use to commit the attack.
But also had like military background and things like that as well. So you'd think they'd kind of.
That sounds like it was planned by Joe Biden. Without assistance.
Not to come up with any wild conspiracy theories, but I think it was definitely Joe Biden.
Just so everybody knows,
the views of genius.
The views that are expressed here are only our own, and sometimes not even our own. We're just, that's how we operate. But yeah, I do also agree that sounds like Joe Biden for sure. So what's next? We've done SpaceX, we've done Tesla. What's the next company on the list?
What else did we have?
X must be on there, right?
X, yeah, for sure. So just before the election, Musk went on Joe Rogan and he said, look, if the Democrats win, they will shut down X. So has he won there? Almost definitely.
Most certainly. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like having X there for the campaign, I think helped massively because it was the one piece of social media that wasn't, just heavily censored and curated by the left and by crazy people.
Yeah, no, it was heavily censored and curated by the right.
You will think what we want you to.
And there will be no mid ground. If you're in the mid ground, you will be shot. Yeah, X is winning. I think we can agree on that for sure. Yeah. Which is great definitely. For shit posters and crypto rug pulls.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect for that kind of thing.
Yeah, and joking aside, it does have a lot of good stuff on there as well. I am a fan of X.
Yeah,
please don't cancel our channel on X.
Yeah.
And if you could boost us, we would appreciate that too. Thanks.
Like, share, subscribe. Okay.
Yeah. Cheers.
I think that was all I had for like the main companies, but I can imagine it's that thing. If you have someone that has so many different businesses doing these different things with really close links to the president, and you essentially, maybe if it wasn't for you, he wouldn't have got into power because who knows how much influence he actually had. Like there's some favors that are owed out. And so will you get leniency for the amount you want to do with Starlink or Neuralink or any of the other things that you're involved in? Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. See, I think this is the thing, and Neuralink's an interesting one, but that whole idea that Musk is kind of bending reality with his influence because he's operating at that perfect intersection of technology, finance, and public opinion. But I used to be really freaked out by Neuralink until I heard his kind of justification for it, I suppose. And his justification for it is that it's the only way that humans will continue to exist alongside AI.
Which, yeah, it could be.
Which get me into the farm and out of this place, onto the temporally scripted South Pacific island that we're working on so that we can just record from there nonstop 24/7.
Yeah, and have no karaoke or outside noise from the surrounding area.
Yeah, selling our merch and doing what we do, Yeah, and I guess an interesting point just to move this a little bit forward is, what do you think Musk's trajectory means for the rise of everyone else in tech? So the Zuckerbergs, the Jeff Bezoses of the world. I know it's slightly different, but like these guys are all involved heavily in tech and technological progress. Bill Gates, I mean, maybe he's going to have to take a break from buying up all of the farming land in the United States to start,
Maybe.
concerning himself with what Musk is doing.
Yeah, so I don't know really. Will there be competition between people? It's one thing that is funny is that recently Mark Zuckerberg gave this kind of speech where he's essentially said that he, not in so many words, but they're going to kind of copy X on Facebook in terms of censorship and things like that. And so, we're going to introduce something where it's like community guidance, a little bit like community notes on X, and make it all this. Yeah.
And they released Threads, didn't they? Which is like the most
kind of
like
flopped,
terrible platform of all time in all existence that adds nothing to nobody. It's basically like the equivalent of, a crochet circle. It's like a circle jerk of positivity, but not real positivity. Like the kind of positivity that's just like fart sniffing from South Park back in the day. Like, oh, I've got a hybrid. Oh, we've got a smug problem over South Park. It's like, sorry if anyone uses. We're not going to be on Threads, so frankly, you can ban us. We don't care.
Yeah, I think we'll probably get banned pretty quickly anyway. I don't think it takes very long to get banned on there.
Totally. Yeah.
I don't know if there was anything else that I thought was fun. Oh, right, yeah. I think one thing that we should remember is that Elon Musk is he's charismatic. He's a brilliant troll, and he's often very funny. So I don't know if you've seen this before, but I'm going to share something.
Yeah, you're going to get the screen up.
What happened is during the election, someone made like a parody video of Kamala Harris. Let's have a look. Entire screen. Okay. So what happened was this. Elon Musk retweeted this video. And like it says here, Elon Musk retweets altered Kamala Harris campaign ad. In the video, Harris seemingly exposes herself as incompetent.
Whoa, I don't want to see that.
Yeah. It's all right. It's not that bad.
Okay, good.
So next, Gavin Newsom, governor of California, comes up and says, manipulating a voice in an ad like this one should be illegal. And I'll be signing a bill in a matter of weeks to make sure that it is. So Musk said, well, it was all about parody, and that's all it was, that should be allowed. And then later, he added this. I checked with renowned world authority, Professor Sugon D's Nuts, and he said parody is legal in America. Which I don't know. I thought that was very funny.
Yeah, I like that. I feel like there's an awful lot of things that we could cover further about Elon Musk. I know he has interesting views on whether or not we are going to kill ourselves as humanity by not having enough children. Maybe that is a reason he has, multiple wives and multiple children. I don't know if that's an approach he's advertising and getting people involved with. To be honest, if you've got enough money to put them all in another villa down the road, I'm not against that as a potential solution for humanity. Don't tell my wife. But yeah, I do think that it does bring back, no matter what side you're on, and it's something for the listeners to consider, or the watchers or listeners to consider, is what are the ethical and societal challenges of centralized influence? And just because for us, Elon Musk is someone that we think is quite cool, and we're kind of picking up what he's putting down, it still does bring in some questions about how would we feel if this was someone that we didn't relate to, if this was somebody that was being put into this position.
If it was Bill Gates.
Right, exactly. How would we then feel about that as a community. And I think this is something we should always keep in mind, particularly when somebody is being put on a pedestal at the level that Elon Musk is right now.
And then not just that, to be given a role in a government department, which is the Department of Government Efficiency, which will decide how funds are allocated and what's efficient. So it's kind of like he's governing part of the government that governs the things that he's involved in. So he has to decide, is it efficient to give this much money to SpaceX? Yeah, I think we should have more.
It is. Yeah, let's invest some in Doge.
He might say, what could be more efficient is if we got AI to do a lot of things. Interesting. Do you know anyone who's good with AI, Elon? Oh, funny enough, I do, yeah. But who knows? Is it a bit like sort of getting the fox to look after the hen house?
Yes.
And a week later, he's like, I don't know what happened, but a couple of the hens went. Going to need a couple more, farmer.
Sorry about that. Yeah, we kind of lost this here, there, and there. Yeah, I think it's something we should certainly revisit in 6 months' time and dig a bit deeper into how this story's unfolded.
Yeah. And also, of course, all the stuff with Keir Starmer and the things that have gone on there recently is really interesting.
Totally. Yeah, totally. So just bringing this back to the audience to close us out, what's your take on Musk's influence? We want you to share your thoughts about whether any individual should have this much power on Twitter at Temporally Scripted, or join us on YouTube and give us a like, subscribe, comment below, and check out all the show notes that we've got for a timeline of the key events and detailed sources. I think the Elon Musk phenomenon represents something unprecedented in human history. His combination of technological innovation, market influence, and social media power concentrated in one individual is insane. And whether or not you see him as humanity's best hope or his biggest threat, his impact is undeniable. And the real question isn't about Musk itself, but it's about what it means for our future when individual influence can scale to these heights. So let us know what you think. Next week, we're going to be looking at another controversial topic. Does ignorance equal bliss? We'll explore the paradox of intelligence and why studies show that higher IQ often correlates with lower happiness, and what that means for society. If this episode made you think differently about power and influence, share it, rate us, and join us next week.